Recording progress. All right. Oh, look. Oh, chat's disabled. Stacy, thank you for telling me that. Layla, please see what you can do. Only if you answer yourself. So I was just told only if I answer myself, we get concerned. I don't know, Mike. I give myself great advice. Thank you, Stacy. So Layla, on the Q&A, it says that the chat's disabled. If you can turn that back on, that'd be pretty wonderful because we like it when people ask questions. All right. I can access it. Fine. Okay. All right. It's about a minute after, and it looks like looks like we're slowing down a little bit. So we're going to get rolling. Layla, if you want to go ahead and turn on the Facebook Live and whatever it is that you do with your magic, a little bit of housekeeping. If you do have any questions, jump onto the chat. I'm a little too ADD, so I'm not going to look at them, but Layla will help answer any questions that you may have during the seminar and the talk. So I will be playing a short video, a couple of slides in. There's no sound for about the first 20 seconds, so don't panic. But if you don't hear sounds when people are talking, then by all means, raise the red flag. I would say wave, but I can't see you, so it won't do any good, but you can jump into the chat. So welcome to our coral care presentation. This is the first webinar that we've done in quite some time that's actually open to the public. So I'm excited to see so many people sign up and register for this chat. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with us. And I'm excited to share with you about Coral Care, which is the next generation of reef saver sunscreen and the world's first sunscreen that's actually proven to nourish and be good for coral. So I'm excited to share some of this about you, share some of this with you. See if I get my words right today. My name is Autumn Blum. I'm the founder and CEO of Stream to Sea. I'm a natural products cosmetic chemist, and I've been formulating natural skincare for almost 30 years now. I'm an avid scuba diver. I'm also a board member on for Reef Renewal USA. If you're not familiar with their work, I would encourage you to take a few minutes and check them out after the seminar. They're doing amazing work pioneering coral restoration and innovative techniques to preserve coral for future generations. So the idea for Stream to Sea came a little over 10 years ago. I was scuba diving in Palau, and as I was coming up to my safety stop, it was the most beautiful, spectacular dive of my life. The coral was healthy, the colors were vibrant. It was an incredible dive. And as I'm coming up, I noticed a rainbow. And as I got closer, I realized it wasn't a rainbow, but it was an oil slick, and it was coming off a group of snorkelers. And I realized that it was from their sunscreen. I got back on the boat and I grabbed the nearest sunscreen that I could find, and there's plenty on the boat. So I grabbed a bottle. I'm reading the ingredients, and there wouldn't have been a health food store in the world that would have allowed that on their shelves. Mind you, that was my industry at that point. And several different products that I grabbed, they had ingredients that certainly weren't safe for your body, and I was seriously questioning whether they'd be safe for the environment. That was the first time that I really thought about how the products that I had been manufacturing and I had been formulating would impact not just our body, but that beautiful aquatic environment as well. So I came home from that trip, and by the time I got back from that really long flight, I had drafted the business plan for Stream to Sea. So before I really get into that, I want to go back to our roots a little bit. Before I started Stream to Sea, I had a natural product skincare company, and we did a lot of herbal products, studied plant medicine quite a bit. And I think about back in the very early days of mankind, if you had a toothache or some sort of ailment, you would go to the medicine man or woman, and they might say, here, chew on this root. You move forward in time, and they would say the root's heathen, chant this prayer. Moving on into the 1800s, the prayer is superstitious, and they would give you a potion to drink. Moving on further, the potion is snake oil, and they would say to take this pill. Moving on into the 1950s, the chemical revolution, that pill's ineffective, here, take this drug. And today, I think there's many of us that question if the side effects of the drugs are worth the cure. And some of us are going back to chewing on the roots. So I don't want that to say that we don't believe in modern medicine, because I'm a huge fan, but I know that if I can chew on a root instead of going to the doctor, that's definitely what I want to do. I think that something similar is happening in the sunscreen industry as well. Many of us are questioning the chemicals that are in the products out there and wondering if there's simpler, safer options. So as long as humans have been documenting their history, they have worked to protect themselves from the sun. If you go back into the ancient Egyptians, they documented uses of mud along with rice bran and jasmine to protect themselves from the sun. And it's actually funny because it's been proven to be quite effective. The rice bran is effective at absorbing UV rays, and jasmine does a pretty darn good job protecting against cellular damage. The Japanese geishas even use mercury-based powders to protect their fair skin. Mercury, I think I'd rather use the mud. Let's see. In the 1930s, a Swiss chemist went mountaineering and he got horribly sunburned. He came back from that trip and created the first commercial sunscreen on the market called Glacial Paste. This was a petroleum jelly type product with zinc oxide, and it became really popular with mountain climbers, surfers, and lifeguards. And that was kind of the start of the lifeguard white zinc nose. In the 1950s chemical revolution, a German scientist developed a product to protect the paint on automobiles from UV damage. That was the foundation for the first organic chemical sunscreens. Super cute marketing, but I still wonder if maybe it was safer for your car than for your skin. So since the 30s, sunscreen usage has increased. There's been more and more formulas introduced on the market, new different active ingredients, and the rate of melanoma has also been increasing as well. So typically when there's a treatment to a disease that's discovered, there's a point where the usage increases and the disease rate decreases. That has not been the case with the use of sunscreen over the past 50 to 100 years. You typically expect these lines to cross, but in the case of sunscreens and melanoma rates, that has not. This has led some people to question the effectiveness of sunscreen as well. I don't really question the effectiveness of it, but I do question some of the ingredients that are in there. So people know that we do have to wear sunscreen. Skin cancer is very real, and we are all educated to apply liberally, wear lots of sunscreen. And where there are people going in the water, there is sunscreen pollution. As my favorite toxicologist, Dr. Craig Downs, likes to say, sunscreen pollution is a symptom of unsustainable tourism. Again, where there's people, there's going to be sunscreen pollution. And we now know that that pollution is of significant concern and does cause significant damage. So in 2015, that same toxicologist, Dr. Craig Downs, published the first really widespread study that raised the red flag. It caused concern. It showed that the most common sunscreen ingredient at the time, oxybenzone, killed coral larvae in concentrations as low as 62 parts per trillion. That amount's a little hard to envision, but it's the equivalent of 1 drop in 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So that's enough to prevent the coral larva or render it virtually inert. Excuse me. So since that time, thousands of studies have been published showing environmentally relevant concentrations in the waters of various tourist destinations, has shown that various chemical UV sunscreen ingredients are harmful not just to the coral larva, but to the coral itself and all the different species that are in the reef systems. It's shown toxicity for oysters, various fish, including game fish that we eat. Detected alarming concentrations of these ingredients are found in their meats. They're finding these ingredients in turtles as well as in dolphins. See if I can turn that little alert off. There we go. All right. So we know that it's harmful. We know that it's in the water, and we know that it's harmful. So these studies received massive widespread attention, and places around the world that rely on the coral reefs for their economy and for tourism were paying attention, and many of them started reviewing the legislation and passed legislative bans not allowing these ingredients into their waters. I find it interesting that every single location that did a scientific review voted to enact a ban. The only somewhat exception to that is Key West. Key West did vote to enact the ban in 2021, but that ban was preempted by the state of Florida, where the government said that it was unconstitutional for them to ban an ingredient that was allowed in the state. And if you think about how much sunscreen is manufactured in the state of Florida, that kind of makes sense as well. So what happened with all of those bans? Lots and lots of media attention was given to it, and people are paying attention. They're starting to question if it's not just harmful for the environment, could these ingredients possibly be harmful for our bodies as well? So after all of the increased awareness, the FDA launched a study to evaluate how much sunscreen is actually absorbed into the body during a typical use. The study was designed to replicate like how much sunscreen you would use on a beach vacation, applying at the recommended every 80-minute intervals, and it was supposed to take place over the course of a week. However, within just one day, participants' blood serum levels of all 4 of the chemical sunscreen ingredients they were trialing exceeded what the FDA could assume was safe, and they stopped the trial. At that point, the FDA removed the generally recognized as safe and effective designation for all 12 of those organic chemical active ingredients, but allowed them to stay on the market, calling for industry to provide safety substantiation or safety data. Here we go. So what also happened about that time, 2019, 2020, 2021? So at that point, the CARES Act was passed. I didn't know that COVID involved sunscreen, but apparently in the CARES Act it did. There was legislation that effectively eliminated the timeline required to provide safety data to the FDA, allowing the chemical sunscreens to remain on the market seemingly indefinitely. Now there is a push for deregulation of the sunscreen industry entirely, which would allow access to newer ingredients that are used in Korea and Europe, other places of the world. That somewhat sounds good. People that are using these ingredients in other parts of the world are saying that their formulas are more elegant, aesthetically pleasing, and they're safe and more effective because they've been using them for quite some time. Well, in the United States, sunscreens are regulated as drugs by the FDA. That means that any new ingredient requires significant human safety data before approving them. This differs from Europe and Asia, where the sunscreens are regulated as cosmetics, making it easier to introduce new ingredients like Tinosorb S, which is very popular in other parts of the world. In the US, the required safety data, not just human side, it often involves animal testing, which makes it a slow and obviously contentious process. So it's not moving very fast. From an environmental perspective, instead of just the human side, I still haven't seen any credible data published proving that these newer ingredients are reef safe. So while lobbyists are pushing to deregulate sunscreens and waive the safety requirements, I still believe that both human and eco-safety data is crucial before we embrace these ingredients. That's just a little history there, right? So that brings us back to Stream to Sea. 10 years ago, we're in our 10th year. Our goal has always been to make the safest products possible. When I started Stream to Sea, I started with the premise of do no harm. So how do you know that you're doing no harm? When I started Stream to Sea, I'd been formulating natural skincare for about 15 years. There's tons of history on what's going to burn a baby's eyes or hurt your skin. I could make those things without doing any testing. Well, animal testing anyway, no need. But when I created Stream to Sea, how do you make something that you know is going to be safe for the reefs or safe for fish or safe for coral? You really didn't know. So before I brought it on the market, I formulated these products. I collaborated with ecotoxicologists and Eckerd College. They did some really good studies for us in their marine biology and ecotoxicology departments. And we were able to eventually prove that all of our formulas were in fact safe. I like to use the word reef safer because what does reef safe mean? My definition is different from others. But also interesting to note that before the first formulas that I created for Stream to Sea that did not make it to the market passed the most stringent natural product standards, but originally failed all of our aquatic toxicity testing. So going back to the premises, do no harm. Going into our 10th year, I wondered, would it be possible to, instead of just do no harm, would it be possible to actually do good? And that is what brought us to the idea of coral care. So would it be possible to take something that people are bringing onto the reefs, into the waters, and instead of bringing a pollutant, or maybe just something that does no harm, could they bring something that does good? So you should hear this momentarily. Let's see if we can. Yeah.
When we talk about threats to our oceans and marine life, we often forget one of the most deadly: tourists. Lawmakers passed a bill Tuesday banning sunscreens that contain two specific chemicals that are believed to cause harm to marine life and coral reefs. Every year, over 14,000 tons of sunscreen wash off us and into the sea, with over 80% of brands containing chemicals that are lethal to coral reefs. While some have removed chemicals from their sunscreens, Stream to Sea wanted to do more. So what if we turned the source of this invisible problem into the solution? Introducing Coral Care. In a world first, we partnered with leading marine and cosmetic technicians to create a sunscreen that's not only safe for coral, it actually feeds it. To a base formula that excluded all harmful ingredients and passed extensive aquatic testing, we also added a unique blend of marine nutrients proven to nourish coral and went into 6 months of coral testing. We discovered that coral care can boost healthy coral growth 50% more than the world's leading reef-safe sunscreens, and an incredible 21% more than Mother Nature alone. To take this initiative to the world, we also created a whole new classification, not just SPF, but RPF, a way of identifying sunscreen that truly cares for coral, and a mark that hopefully someday all sunscreens will have to carry. At launch, with product sampling, social media activity, and global PR, we saw an incredible response.
When I first heard about coral care, I got really excited about how something could be changed from a negative to a positive.
Coral Care is now going global, partnering with government and tourism companies to help turn the tide on coral's future.
The world needs more concepts and products like coral care.
Coral Care with RPF, the little tube of sunscreen with enormous potential for change.
Pretty cool, right? Still kind of gives me goosebumps. So the little tube of sunscreen with enormous potential for change. Let's see. So if you are on this call, you probably already know that the coral reefs are incredibly important. They're home to more than 25% of marine life, occupying less than 1% of the ocean floor. And this is the part that gets me. If we don't make change, more than 90% of the coral reefs could be functionally extinct by 2030. I don't like being negative. I like focusing on the positive. And I truly believe that small steps add up. I believe that if you have the ability to do something in your world, in your career, in your daily life better, that not only should you, I believe that we have the obligation to do it. Which is what brought us originally to our original water sport formula, which is still one of our top selling products. This formula is in the reef RPF factor world. It is reef safe neutral. It has been proven to do no harm. And with all of the blue washing out there in the world, we wondered, could we take that base formula, add a unique blend of our proven marine nutrients, things that people use, that coral scientists would use to grow coral, could we add those to our sunscreen and do good? And we found that we actually could. So initially it was a concept, but again, just like at our foundation and our roots, you have to do the testing to find out. So we collaborated with Professor Michael Sweet, who you saw in the previous video, to basically prove us wrong. I mean, the idea was it was going to be beneficial, and he jumped out. So Michael Sweet is a professor at University of Derby, which is a world-renowned research facility for eco health and coral sciences. He's a very well-credentialed, well-published leading researcher and the advisor to marine advisor and of all things coral, in my opinion, to the United Nations. So he set up a research study on our Coral Care sunscreen, which is now we can proudly say that it is the most rigorously studied and tested sunscreen on the market today. He did 18 weeks of thorough testing, 9 tanks, 3 different trials in triplicate, 4 different species of coral, and measured the growth in three different metrics. And at the end, I think he was as excited as we were. So comparing it to the control, we received more than 21% increase in horizontal growth, 5% in vertical, 0.2% in wet weight, It was more than 50% compared to the control sunscreen, control reef safe sunscreen. Mind you, not a bad one. So picture tells 1,000 words. I love looking at this. The control here on the left is just a general coral fragment, which is a healthy piece of coral. It's nourished, it's put into in the tank, and over the course of 4 months, 16 weeks, it grew as expected. Compared it to Stream to Sea, which is the leading reef-safe sunscreen for aquatic health, and over the course of 16 weeks, we did no harm. Our coral grew. Comparing it to Coral Care, this is where it really got shocking. So we expected our sunscreen to do no harm. What we didn't really expect was to have more than a 50% increase in growth from Stream to Sea to Coral Care, but also a 21% increase just from healthy nutrients. So this was significant. It was a robust trial. There were 4 different species that were measured. And again, 21% average healthy growth. So we said, maybe we'll do a little press release. Let's send this out in the world, see if people are interested. And oh boy, were they. It blew us away. I think the world's ready for a product like this. Everybody's looking for change. We presented the video at a couple of different presentations. It won awards. It's continuing to do so.
On this project for the better part of a year now, and it's exciting to actually see the product come to fruition. This is 850 kilos of reef positive sunscreen that is coming out in the world.
So we introduced the product at DEMA, the the Dive Equipment Manufacturers Association. We did a small run. We came back from that show and we sold out in a day or two. So we came back to work. We've been making product like crazy, and we have a bunch ready and available as well. And it is starting to get out there and move. Before I get into the questions and answers, I just wanted to introduce you to RPF, which is a new certification that's being developed, not by Stream to Sea, but it is being developed with the leadership of University of Derby and the PR Reach of McCann. And it is a third-party accreditation for showing that an item, a product actually is reef safe or reef safer. As you probably know, there's no designated standard, and what I might think is reef safe is quite different from what somebody else does. So here is a valid third-party certification that we hope that within the future, every sunscreen out there will be carrying these certifications. It will involve significant trials of necrosis, tissue loss, color change, etc. And if there's any tissue loss or decline of the coral species, the product will not qualify. There are 3 different certifications. You've got bronze, which is what Stream to Sea water sport product is carrying this certification now, silver, and then the gold standard is Coral Care. And that means that it was actually positive for the products or for the coral. This is being scrutinized by the UN and ICRI, International Coral Reef Institute. We hope that they will be signing on. It looks like they will, along with various other nations and third-party products, certification agencies, and at least 3 different labs are being trained on doing these trials. So hopefully it won't just be Coral Care. There will be many other products out there to do good in the world. And I truly thank you for your time. And if I can figure out how to see questions and answers, Layla may need to help me. I'd be delighted to answer your questions. Let's see if I can turn off my slide. Let's see. And that was not right. Stop sharing. That's me, Tiger Shark. Love it. All right, let's see. Okay, back over here. Layla, oh, look at that. I can see them. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's time here. Feel free to ask any questions. We will be sending a follow-up email with some of the science. If you have questions or you want to see some of what we've already done, you can jump onto our website, streamtosea.com. In the top little navigation thingy, there's a link that says Our Testing, and we do share all of our test results there. There's a little bit on Coral Care. We are going to be boosting it up as we get more permission from the Research University. One thing that I do like to share, when we do trials like this, we do them hands-off. I'm not involved in the testing, the test method. We give the products and we give permission to share and publish the results, whether they're good or bad. So what that means is I don't own the science. and we have to wait for permission to share. So I did have a few people after DEMA say, hey, send me all the details. I'm like, well, I will as soon as I have permission to share them. And that's getting a little bit better. All right, so let's see here, going through some of these questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's very exciting. And yes, I would love to come talk with your dive group. Thank you, Christine. Amazing. What type of coral nutrients do we include? These are things that that coral researchers have been using. We took the ones that are used in the lab, various nutrients that are healthy. We removed the ones that smell like fish and created a proprietary blend that is patent pending. So at some point, I'll tell you exactly what it is. Will a tinted version be available? We are hoping to get certification for all of the products. We would like to add these nutrients to the leave-in conditioner, to the other products. That's going to take some time because, as I'm sure you can imagine, these trials are bloody expensive. So we got to play catch up a little bit. But we do hope there will be many more products in our product in the coral care range under Stream to see in the very near future. Tinted will be top of our list. Thank you. We would love to see you use this out in the Egyptian Red Sea. Thank you. And pictures, please take pictures. We need all of that, and hashtag and all of that good stuff. Layla manages our social media, so she would love to see that happen as well. How long is it coral positive? Is there an expiration date on how long it nourishes the coral? That's a great question that I'm not sure I can answer, but I will pass that on to Michael Sweet and the research team. The trials that they did was over 16 weeks, and they stopped it not because the coral stopped growing, but they stopped it because that was just the end of the funding. Good question. Let's see. Yes, will the 40 and the 50 be available? Right now, we're just getting ready to start trialing the zinc balm, which is the SPF 40. I have not yet been successful making an SPF 50 in a mineral formula without using the chemical actives or chemical inactives, things that are buried in there. If you look at most mineral sunscreens that are SPF 50 or above, and you read the inactive ingredients, almost every single one of them includes butyloctyl salicylate, which Mike and I both affectionately call BS, because it really is a chemical UV active and it shouldn't be there at all. So that's how most of the companies are getting to an SPF 50 with just the minerals, and I haven't hit it yet. SPF 45 is the highest that we've gotten, which blocks 98.6% of those UV rays, which is quite a good bit. So how long is it effective after the skin is exposed to water? We have an 80-minute water resistance rating, which is the highest that the US FDA allows. We are getting ready to test for the Australian standards, which includes 4 hours, and I'm quite sure it will meet those standards. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Thank you so much, Utila Dive Center. We'll be sending out a follow-up that'll include it'll include images and the names of all 4 of the corals. I should have them in my brain, but I can tell you all of the ingredients that are in a sunscreen and all the cosmetic side, but I am not the coral researcher, so it's not in my head. Porites, I know, is one of them, just because our original testing was done on porites, so that one's in my head. Excellent. All right. Well, I know that be watching your email box. I don't think it's going to be today because we're still putting the polishing touches on the science packet, but you should be seeing that in the next day or two, along with a link for some discounts to get some of the products if you want to share them out in the world. So again, thank you very much for your time. We're at 30 minutes, which was my goal. High five, everybody. I appreciate it. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again for taking the time to learn with me. And if you want us to do more, make sure you let me know because I get nervous about these things. I'll do more if you want me to. All right. Bye. Peace.